Johnson.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, I just wanted to say that I met you through conversations. Oh, here, let me make sure that this is actually streaming before we get too far along here.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it is. Okay, good. We're live. We're live. So I met you through Conversations NYC, which is an awesome organization. I'm going to post that. And so Nikki is a speaker, a writer, a discussion leader, all these amazing things. You're also writing a book that's very similar to the book I'm writing. Whereas I think maybe you're a little bit more sciencey, I'm a little bit more businessy, but there is so much overlap that I'm really excited to talk to you today about the opportunity that's around and what's happening on this kind of spiritual level. So let's just start with, you can give us a real introduction of yourself.
Okay, well, again, thanks so much for inviting me to this conversation. I'm so excited, super fun, exciting. But yeah, and sorry for the notes, by the way. These are scribbled very fast, so hopefully I'll be able to read my own writing. But yeah, huge things going on the planet, obviously, so much to talk about. But yeah, I figured before we go into that, just give everybody a background on where I came from to kind of contextualize where all this stuff is coming from. So basically, I came from a normal career in marketing and print journalism and PR and content marketing and SEO copywriting at one point, right? Which is feels like a past life at this point. Yes.
Yeah.
I started 2 businesses of my own, right? But then 2007, that was the start of my spiritual awakening. And I would say a catalyst for this was watching the Zeitgeist movie with my cousins.
I've seen that. I love it.
Yes, by Peter Joseph. And I would say for anyone watching this, dude, if you haven't seen that, watch that immediately after this chat.
Yes, especially right now.
Yes, for sure. So anyway, but just a brief overview of what that was all about for people who haven't seen it. So part 1 was all the religions are basically the same. The characters had different names. Some of the details of the stories differ, but they are remarkably similar. And the core message to all of it is very consistent, across the board. Okay. Part 2, 9/11 was an inside job and the war on terror is a complete farce. Part 3, the financial system is an elaborate Ponzi scheme. You basically have this fractional reserve system where money is created out of nothing, which carries interest with it. The Federal Reserve is not part of the official government. It is an international banking cartel. And so the interest that comes with all the money that is created, that goes back to this cartel of globalists. And where does the money to pay the interest come from? You just have to keep printing more money, and that interest is paid by people being in this system of debt enslavement for their entire lives.
Yeah, and in fact, if I could just add to that really quickly, one of the things that blew my mind about that too is that, and I find this a lot, is that when you look back at history, the government itself actually warned us many times against the Federal Reserve. They did not want the Federal Reserve eventually. I forget who the presidents were at the time, but I find that a lot. And also with the rise of the corporation, there were a lot of warnings from top officials. And again, I wish I could remember who was president at the time. I don't remember.
Oh, the presidents that warned us about this were the ones who got assassinated. Lincoln was against this. Kennedy was against this. I mean, if you start digging, oh my God, so much makes sense. So anyway, but when I first watched this movie, all 3 of these parts for me were equally shocking and just traumatic almost, because for most people in the types of groups that you and I met through, the first part, all the religions are basically the same, a lot of people, I'm sort of on board with that. But for me, having grown up thoroughly indoctrinated into Catholicism. When I went to college, I stopped going to church because those empty rituals just kind of felt hollow to me. But that was still my foundation in terms of my belief system. That was so important.
Yeah.
Because for anybody who grows up that way, you have no other choice. I
Well,
mean,
that's our paradigm.
are you going to choose damnation like that?
Right.
I mean, it's such a steel trap,
Yeah.
So anyway, so that part alone was just like, what? But then parts 2 and 3, I was like, there's no, why would that be true? But every time that I would think about watching that movie with my cousins, there would be these strange synchronicities. And of course, Carl Jung defines synchronicity as these meaningful coincidences where 2 or more events are tied together based on something beyond the realm of, just random possibility, random chance. Okay. And so for me, it was a lot of seeing repeating numbers like 333, 333, 333, like it got insane. But then I'll give you one other specific example. So 2 weeks maybe after seeing this movie with my cousins and thinking about that, I was in an apartment in a party in New York, and the owner of the apartment had a dog, and I was petting the dog and thinking about, oh, this dog is kind of like my cousin's dog. And then out of nowhere, this guy says the word Mushi, and that was my cousin's nickname for her dog. And I was like,
oh,
why did you just say that? And of course he was drunk and he just laughed it off,
Well, why did he say it?
What?
Why did he say it? Just because he
never gave me an explanation for that.
But
interesting. But pulled that out of the ether somehow.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Then 5 minutes later, the music on the stereo abruptly changes from house music, which everybody loves, to some Led Zeppelin CD. And my cousin, when I was little, the same cousin, of those 2 that I had watched it with, he gave me all these Led Zeppelin tapes as a kid. So I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that got me reading from a whole bunch of different areas of nonfiction, philosophy and psychology and comparative religious studies and spirituality and science, just what is going on with my life personally and what is going on in this world. How is reality put together? What?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that started the journey for me. And the cool thing is, as you start digging really deep into all these different areas, wow, there's so much support there. They support one another, and you see these threads, evidence for these really deep esoteric themes, which would otherwise seem very counterintuitive. But wow, like it's all, and it wouldn't make sense without like starting to dig into these things. So, oh my God, I just became honestly obsessed with this.
Yeah,
right?
Cool. So, you're a plethora of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Of knowledge, yeah.
Tomato, right? So anyway, but 2014, I had an apartment in the Upper East like a normal person, but then all of a sudden the owner took back the units in the building to renovate it and sell it. And at the time I was like, well, if I'm going to travel, now would be the best time since I'm not paying rent back home. So I went to Rio de Janeiro for a month. I stayed in 5 different places in the city. And I freaking loved it. That was my first international experience by myself, and just to be thrown into a different environment and just all the things that you learn that way, and every second I was hooked. And so that was the last time I've had a permanent home. It's been an exploration of 40 countries, 6 continents since then. Super
amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, how fun. What an adventure. And especially because in everywhere you go, you're connecting all these dots.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And spending most of my time, I mean, I did enough projects to stay afloat, but mostly just, again, reading from all these different areas, going to all these different museums and, cultural sites and sacred sites and things like this, picking up all that energy. And you think about people in history who did the pilgrimage, to all these places as well. Yeah.
Socrates. Socrates, Confucius. Yeah.
But, so many of those guys,
Right.
they did this too, this whole the hero's journey, basically.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It is the hero's journey, which arguably everybody goes through. So
for sure.
that's in
for
my
sure.
book. Yeah.
For sure. So as you mentioned, you know, my current project is writing a book, and the first one that I'm going to write, kind of taking a lot of what I've learned, but yeah, the first book is called The Internal Process of Enlightenment, Bridging Spirituality and Science. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is, you know, enlightenment has so many different names across different spiritual, philosophical, psychological traditions. In some places it's called ascension and liberation, self-realization, moksha, individuation, self-transcendence, accessing the superconscious mind, right? But it's all the same thing. So the book will basically kind of compare, well, you know, so many books have been written about this subject, and I am not trying to recapitulate what everyone has said on this subject.
Right.
Fairly narrow focus, and that it's taking just covering the process that takes place within the body to trigger the experience of enlightenment. So starts in the brain, goes down the spine. If everything is properly aligned, goes back up the spine, hits certain pieces in the brain, releases certain neurotransmitters. Other pieces of the brain are involved, and this triggers what we associate in terms of the feelings and the experiences with enlightenment. By all of these different names. Yeah. So, and I haven't seen this particular aspect of it covered anywhere else. I've had to kind of piece this together in terms of like looking at the anatomy, looking at the different pieces of the spine, you know, and there's a physical side to it, a metaphysical side to it, you know, and for example, like all of the chakras along that column, which relates to, okay, so you have the nadis in Hinduism or Indian sort of traditional medicine, right? Where the Ida and the Pingala, this is polarized experience, and what we want to do is direct that energy up the Sushumna, directly up the spine, go through all those chakras, and they got to be balanced. But yeah, every chakra is associated with an endocrine gland. You know, the top two chakras, so the third eye chakra, the crown chakra, associated with the pituitary and pineal gland in the brain. These release certain neurotransmitters which create those sensations that we associate with enlightenment. So super interesting.
So in the science stuff, is in science could somebody make the argument that science would call enlightenment consciousness? And then also how does consciousness play in? And then also like quantum physics and the nature of reality and all of that, unless I'm jumping.
I think maybe a better way to relate it to consciousness would be enlightenment is a shift from one plane of consciousness to another, right?
Oh, okay.
So primarily, I think on the earth right now, we're talking about the shift from third dimensional consciousness through fourth dimensional consciousness to fifth. So third dimensional consciousness generally associated with the lower three chakras. So survival, protection, procreation, family, and also personal power. Okay, that's third dimension and the first harmonic universe. Second harmonic universe would be the next 3 to 4 chakras. So the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown.
Interesting.
Maybe the crown, and I've seen the crown more associated with that next harmonic universe. So 40, fourth dimension, second harmonic universe, all these numbers, right? But yeah, so generally 3 chakras associated with a harmonic universe. Some people call it third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension.
Okay.
But I would say, you know, that shift to enlightenment, that's the third harmonic universe, that's the crown, and then 2 other chakras beyond the physical body.
So. Okay, cool. Now, forgive me if I'm jumping, but it's interesting from a chakra point of view that this virus starts in the throat, moves down into the lungs, and then kills you. Right? Yeah. I mean, basically, the lungs and the respiratory system is where blockage occurs. So, from what I read, it's like this mucus develops, and then there's a blockage in the respiratory, and that's how people can develop pneumonia, and that's why people with a compromised immune system, specifically respiratory systems, are vulnerable. So how does that relate from a chakra point of view and or consciousness point of view, and from a like a spiritual analyzation of what's happening?
Well, let me get
you're
through
getting
what I wrote down,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then we'll
You'll
get
get there. Okay.
So, I mean, I think it's super interesting what's going on right now, and it's very easy to get caught up in the feelings of fear and panic that are starting to take over the planet right now, especially if you're exposed to friends and family who feel that way, and you can catch that fear. That's the more dangerous situation. Yeah.
There's energy to the energy of chaos and fear is real palpable right now.
That's what
feeding
spreads.
Consciousness. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's feeding the consciousness.
But then if you look at this from the bigger picture perspective, I really think that it helps us to stay grounded about what's really going on right now. Okay. Well, let's start by looking at, what did astrology tell us about this year? The interesting thing is that so many planets right now are in Capricorn.
Yes, for the first time in like hundreds of years or something crazy.
It's insane, okay? And Capricorn rules institutions and structures like government, finance,
economics,
healthcare, education, and all of the astrologers that I tune into. We're saying at the beginning of this year, look for huge shakeups with these things. Well, look at what's going on right now. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Predicted in the stars.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. So. But then also, from a numerological perspective, so 2020 is a 4-year, and 4 represents the foundations in our lives. So again, same sort of thing with the institutions and the structures. Now, 4 also connects the mind, body, spirit to the physical world of structures and order. So, but also 4 symbolizes safety and security and the need that we have for stability and strength in that foundational level of our being. So that's what's coming, front and center right now, right? But
we're forced to focus on that.
Exactly. Now, I think the current situation, what's going on in terms of, all these safety measures and things that are being rolled out right now. I think that it has 5 to 10% to do with the virus and 90 to 95% to do with pre-existing situations that were brewing long before the outbreak. Okay. So, and this is
because they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is what they will never, ever tell you on mainstream news. Okay. So the real issue right now is the collapse of the petrodollar system. Middle East oil money is drying up. And so, and this has propped up the world economy for decades, right? This has been the linchpin for the entire world economy. And so what you're seeing right now with the stocks and why they're going completely wild, you know what? It's not necessarily about the virus. It may be a little bit, but this was a pre-existing situation. This is a smoke screen for a much larger situation that has been brewing for a while. Okay. So there's an article by Jerry Robinson, which I'll share the link and you could put that in the description or the comments or whatever. But yeah, it's really good about the petrodollar system, and I would highly recommend that anybody just check this thing out, particularly the first 2 articles in this 4-article series. But just
it's coincidence that the virus is happening at the same time and allowing a smokescreen, if you will. Right?
Yes. I think they have been looking for, though, a situation to, everybody look over there and we're going to deal with this other thing. Keep looking over there, and keep your attention over here. We're going to fix stuff. Right. So
Well,
anyway.
yeah, that always happens. Yeah.
For sure. But anyway, so just to kind of summarize what's going on with the petrodollar system. So in 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement said that the US dollar would serve as the global reserve currency. Now, a lot of nations were like, I don't know, why should we do that? And the agreement said, okay, we're going to say that US dollars can at any time be traded for gold. So there was a gold-backed standard, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The problem was that by the 70s, this excessive spending by the US with welfare and warfare, as it was put in the article, other nations were getting nervous and they were trading the dollars for gold. And this is not a sustainable situation. They had to figure out another way to prop this thing up.
Right.
And so they put this petrodollar system in place. Mm-hmm. And originally they went to Saudi Arabia and they said, hey, okay, here's what's going to happen. See if you like the sound of this agreement, okay? We will provide you with weapons and military protection if you will abide by two conditions. One, all oil needs to be paid for in US dollars. Do not accept any other currency. And the second condition was any excessive profits that you get have to be deposited as US debt securities in Western banks. Okay. And, the second one may be a little too complicated to get into in the context of this. People can read the article and it's really clear, even if you don't have a finance background. But basically, this created demand for US dollars everywhere. Oh, and originally we went to Saudi Arabia, but as soon as the other countries heard about this agreement, they were like, the oil countries, OPEC, they were like, no, sign us up too. Because we weren't asking these countries to pay us for all the weapons and the military protection that we were giving them. We were just saying, hey, do the business that you would ordinarily do it in dollars, and deposit all the money that you get. Just put it in our banks as debt securities. And this created
Which is not a terrible idea.
Oh,
actually.
It's an ingenious.
Yeah. Especially at a time when we were super in debt.
Yes.
The country, as a country. And we're running out of money because, as you say, they're just printing it anyways. So it brings money into our economy.
Freaking brilliance. Yes. Yeah. Created permanent demand for the US dollar across the world.
Right.
And a lot of nations then had to figure out an export strategy to get the dollars that they needed to buy the oil. I have to create some product that America will want. And, this solidified America as, the supreme global power across the world.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Which is a lot like the economic hitman. Did you ever read that?
Yes.
And it's just a new version of that through oil, I guess.
The second Zeitgeist movie.
Yeah.
Not part 2, but yeah.
Right. He talks about that in there. Yeah.
Exactly. Very good.
Yeah.
That's perfect segue into the next point here on my notes. So here's the problem with this is the dark side to this system. I mean, this has perpetuated all the wars that are fought to protect this thing. So you look at the nations that have challenged it. Mm-hmm. Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, North Korea, Syria, Libya, Venezuela. Now our foreign policy seems to make a lot more sense. It's literally all revolving around this. And so, these messages about, we're going into these countries to liberate the people from oppressive dictators. Really? There's so many oppressive dictators. Why these particular ones? No, there's an agenda behind this. And so, and the problem right now is that, again, the Middle East oil money is drying up. It used to be at $100 a barrel. Now it's 20, and they're in a really desperate situation. And you look at, so now, with climate change and stuff, I mean, a lot of that is driven by oil and fossil fuels.
Right.
Is this really the energy that we should be using? So let's get back to the astrology that they were talking about for this year. So, I mean, it comes down to shaking off things personally and collectively that no longer serve us. Okay. So does this system serve us? This system that perpetuates wars, that damages our environment, and I mean, if you look into that part 2 and part 3 of the Zeitgeist movies, I mean, this keeps a system of debt enslavement,
Yeah.
kind of strangleholding the entire planet. Is this what we really want? And I think, you know, for many who resonate with the truth movement, who self-identify as light workers or starseeds or whatever, who are woke, right?
Word.
At this point,
Yeah.
you know, we're starting to see the strings here.
Yeah.
It's the scene of The Wizard of Oz where we're like, oh, shoot,
Except
that's
that
what's
there is,
really driving this. Yeah.
except that there is still very much people are still lost behind the fear. There is still a screen of fear. I think that a lot of people aren't seeing this, but the opportunity here is that we are, and we're, you know, certainly we're still in the first couple of weeks of this happening here in our country, and
Oh,
so
yes.
people are still in shock, still in fear. So I don't know if they've actually been able to pull the curtain back yet using the
No. The majority of the population certainly has not.
Yeah,
The
but
purpose
we're
of
getting
this,
there
yeah,
because this is going to last like maybe the whole year. And so I
yes,
think part of the opportunity here is that by being forced to look inward, if you
yes,
will, being
yes,
stuck inside indoors, I just
yes,
feel like all of it, we have no choice of us. We are on lockdown, we're on pause. And so eventually, those who still can't see it, who can't get through the fear, everyone's going to be able to catch up in this, I
yes,
feel like, which is exciting.
yes. Yes, I agree. Because nothing wakes you up like trauma sometimes, too.
Exactly.
That's the weird thing about the human condition. Yeah.
Word. And we need that actually.
Absolutely.
That's, and again, that's the positive out of all of this. We need that to
Yes.
be woken up. And so
Yes.
thank God we're able to do it at home in the safety
Yes.
of our own homes right now.
Yes, yes, completely agree. Okay, so that was point one that I wanted to get across was just okay. So and you look about the way they're saying, oh, this is gonna last for a month. Well, how do they know that already? No,
Well, from
there's a
China,
much, but there's no, they're already saying in the news this is gonna last for months and months. Well, how do they know that?
because that's what happens
Because
in China. Oh,
my point is this is the smokescreen for something much larger that's going on the planet.
interesting.
Okay, much
It's convenient
deeper
for that.
changes. Okay, one other link that I'll share that you can put in the description or whatever. It's called Global Lockdown, Age of Truth, and they did a show about coronavirus, and it is really good. So, but one of the things that they brought up there too, or a lot of truthers are even saying, you know, is this virus even real? And I think it reminds me of the Morpheus sort of argument of
The
what
Matrix,
is real?
holographic
How do you
universe.
define real? Yeah,
What
it's
is
just
reality? Right.
exactly. Our brain takes these certain signals and puts it together, and that's what is presented to us as reality. Okay, and then you think about the first hermetic principle in Egyptian science, or what Ernest Holmes told us in The Science of Mind. You know that all is mental, all is mind. You know,
Quantum
everything.
physics. This is what quantum physics does.
Absolutely. Everything in existence is an idea that has been crystallized into form. Okay. And then you think about the model that was presented to us artistically in the movie Inception. Okay. This idea of implanting an idea in the mind. And you think about that in the context of coronavirus. And
But
wow.
there's also this power of collective consciousness.
For sure.
In creating reality
For
too.
sure. But and part of that is, you know, we have that psychic filter, and that incorporates both our conscious and subconscious fears in this current and past lives, our ancestral karma, and then collective karma as well. That's the archetypal stuff, and what's going on with other people on the planet too. So all of that gets filtered through our own psyche, and that's what creates the reality around us.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's really helpful to think about in terms of, you know, thinking about coronavirus as an idea that is implanted. And I can tell you, you know, this whole thing wasn't even real to me until Monday, I think the 16th, when a couple different things happened. That was when they did the like sort of semi-volunteer. Well, they recommended it, certainly the curfew at like 8 or something, and just walking the dog, and like nobody was around. And
where was that? That wasn't in New York, was it?
Oh, that was in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
dude, the streets were empty. The bars were empty.
Fun.
There were just the bar hands standing there by themselves. And that felt really weird. And then another friend,
Surreal.
The only way that this thing kind of, I took it on board at all was when she went, no, the asymptomatic carrier thing, you could give it to your parents. And I was like, oh my God. And then that night, it was like every scenario, like all the things that I hadn't let in before, I was like processing it all at once. And like my brain was going through all the possible scenarios. And so I put on Westworld, like a bunch of those, and I fell asleep to that. And unfortunately now, like that theme song like haunts me because all those memories. But at the same time, like, yeah, I think that's the X factor though with this disease versus ones earlier. This idea that you could be a carrier without even having symptoms.
Right. I mean, talk about
give
control.
It to your loved ones, you know?
Yeah, and it's controlling us. That idea is controlling people because that idea is what is telling us to stay home, no matter what, whether you can be infected or not.
Right.
You know, and I think that's interesting if you look at that idea from the point of view of inception.
Yes.
Interesting. But I also think that that's a parallel theory, if you will, to the collective consciousness theory.
Yes.
Which is the collective consciousness theory would be that we have pulled this upon ourselves from materialism, consumerism, you know, everyday fears.
Perfect. That totally was the next point on my list. Yeah. So this is the purge. This is a period of healing, self-transformation. Again, going back to what they said in astrology, shaking off the things that no longer serve, healing ourselves, figuring out what matters. And yeah, I was thinking about too. I mean, this may sound melodramatic, but you think about like Noah. Or there was a character in the Epic of Gilgamesh. His name there is Utnapishtim. But yeah, it's the same Noah story.
Oh my God! Across all the religions, they have like
he was the only guy who made it through to that next plane of consciousness, and literally by building the boat. And so that's what we're doing right now, individually and collectively, buttoning the hatches, and figuring out what matters. And I think the main theme that we want to leave everybody with is this is a time to rediscover your self-sovereignty. Take your power back. Okay. We have everything to heal ourselves within the human body. That's what the book is about. That's what the book is about. Yeah.
That's convenient.
So and that's the ultimate antidote. Nothing trumps that.
I agree 100%. That's also what my book is about, which is why I think, I mean, in some ways, I know, bro, we're very aligned, you and I think, but that's what makes me kind of excited about what's going on right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, in a very serious acknowledging that there is a lot of fear and that there is, in fact, death happening, you know.
Some people will choose to cross over. But I also, I mean, personally, I was watching last night this thing about pre-birth plans. So personally, my belief is on some other plane of consciousness, we decide what we come into this plane of consciousness to learn about. We plan it. It's almost like an improv script. Okay, you're going to go with this person, do that. You're going to teach each other these things.
Outline.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the entrance and here's the exit. Okay. And you plan all that out.
Agreed.
And again, no disrespect or absolute love and compassion for anybody who's been affected by this.
Agreed. Because we are one. Hashtag we are one.
Yes.
And I would 100% believe that this is where that collective consciousness comes in.
Yes.
You know, is that we are all being affected by this, and their pain, you know, and someone else's pain absolutely affects our reality. Because that pain in an energy form is out there.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I 100% agree. I also just wanted to say really quickly, I think we can go another 10 minutes probably.
Okay.
And
I
then
got to pretty much to the end of my note. Oh, the other thing.
Wait, hold on. Let me just say one thing before we move on from that is that on the Noah thing, I think it's interesting what I'm waiting to kind of see, although maybe it's happening. Of course it's happening because I believe time is relative too, by the way, is that we have yet to although it's starting to happen, like I said, we've yet to really see a leader step up and show us the way. We are basically leaderless in this country, and I'm not interested in getting into politics here, but we don't have, and thank God for the governors that are really stepping up, and I think Cuomo's been doing an amazing job in my home state, and other people are doing stuff, but we don't really have somebody that across the country is unifying us, and in this case, maybe even globally. And so, but maybe also I think that that's why it's a time for the light workers, or, for
totally what I was going to say.
Yeah, who are carrying the torch, who are trying to empower the individual in their own sovereignty. What did you call it? Self-sovereignty?
Self-sovereignty.
Love that word, and I think this is a time, because in some ways we're leaderless, to discover that and find that. And there are a lot of leaders this week, because the first week I was like, where is everyone? Where is everyone? And this week I'm starting to see people do podcasts or live streams or little short videos on Instagram, wherever it is, they are starting to step up and offer some kind of comforting, because, there's a lot of doomsday marketing going on right now and doomsday reporting. And but if you know how to look for it and you search, there is some positive messaging, and that's why we're doing this live stream.
Exactly. And in terms of the leaderless state right now, what we're looking at is changing of the guard, I would say.
Yes. Yes.
From 40 leadership.
Paradigm shift.
From 40 leadership to 5D. Okay.
Yeah.
So people who have embodied that.
I love that. I love that. I love that. That terrifies some people, probably. I don't understand 1D, let alone 4D. But I'm with you, and I love it. And
I'll get there. Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you don't understand it, because we are one. And that's what I think is so powerful about light workers, or the people who are kind of saying this stuff, is that there's no judgment, like if all of this goes over your head, no judgment, because you are me. We are one, we're only interested, pull out from this what you can.
Yes.
And, meanwhile, we're at home doing nothing anyways,
Exactly.
Like, might as well
exactly.
Inward, find your own version of this.
Yeah, so many of these traditions say it's all about going within.
Yes.
And so we're forced to do that right now, for sure.
Word.
But one other point that I was going to throw in, so from that the global lockdown Age of Truth TV interview, another thing that they brought up on there was just the correlation between the rollout of 5G and the spread of the virus, which is interesting.
Yeah, make that connection for us.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of that has been rolled out in China, which is where this thing started.
Yeah.
They mentioned, I didn't get a chance to confirm this one, but they mentioned a cruise ship where there were no passengers that had the virus when they started, but this thing had 5G on it, and a lot of people had symptoms of this, by the end of the cruise.
Wait, is this the one in California by any chance?
I have to look it up.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Yeah, there was a big one in California, but yeah.
Another point that I think I should mention too is, in this age of fake news and stuff, it's so tough sometimes to figure out what is even true and what's not. And I think one of the most important things for everybody is, and something that travel helped me do as well, is, kind of realizing that just the nature of the human mind and the way it's designed to are prone to confirmation bias. So as soon as we have a theory, then the brain kind of presents all of the evidence that supports that
and
theory.
Fills in the blanks.
Yes, but then when you decide, you know what, I'm going to go this way, then all the evidence for that other view.
Right.
So one of the most important things that I would say that I've learned, and largely through travel, is just realizing, okay, well, this doesn't necessarily have to be true. Okay, so instead of saying that's true or even going with the opposite view, I'm just going to leave them both kind of open, be neutral about it. And in that state, see where the evidence kind of piles up more. And then, I think that's really helpful in this age of fake news right now.
And also look inward. What is your truth? Because ultimately your truth is the most important thing.
Yes.
Because you, from a collective from a conscious point of view, and also a simulation theory kind of view too, you are going to create that reality. And from the confirmation by
Yes.
point of view. So
Yes.
find what makes truth to you and
Yes.
what makes sense to you, and then go there, as opposed to just go blindly accepting that, well, it's CNN or whatever, whatever
Yes.
is your reality.
Yes.
Just, look, I like this. Look at it from a neutral point of view,
Yeah.
and then, analyze
Yeah.
it internally. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of going along, yeah, and kind of going along with the theme of self-sovereignty as well. Have you gotten into, do you even know what QAnon is? Have you looked into that and stuff?
I don't think so. No.
Oh,
What
okay.
is
So this
that?
is the movement that says that Donald Trump is actually a secret savior and he's gonna dredge the swamp and whatever. Oh, it's huge.
Oh my
It's huge.
God.
Okay, so I rode the Q train for a little bit, but the whole time I was like, wait a minute. I mean, is his whole jerk routine like is that an elaborate cover? But like you said, using intuition and matching that against what you're seeing, it was not adding up
Right.
at all.
Right.
Okay.
Like the what are they called? The flat earthers.
Yeah,
The flat
there's
earthers.
that whole
It just
thing,
doesn't
which is
add
out
up.
there as well, for sure. Very similar dynamics
Yeah.
between those two things. But there's two problems with this whole thing. I think one, it's kind of catching people who are in the truth movement because they know that the system has problems, right? And so it's
Right.
caught people who are like halfway there,
Right.
keep them
Right.
in the system. Okay, you know, again, look to that external savior versus finding it within, going
Right.
within.
Right.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
But also, the scarier thing is that this QAnon, and by the way, it's interesting that Putin like worked for the KGB before, so he's got experience with like manipulating,
Mm.
using intelligence and kind of manipulating the popular. Potentially, I think that
Mm-hmm.
may even play into this, but basically, I've got a whole contingent in the U.S. right now who are like waiting for martial law to happen.
Right.
And if
Right.
you look for
Right.
martial law news right now, like
Oh,
so many leaders are like, no,
scary.
that's not going to happen. But you have so many people in this country right now that are like, yes, that's when the mass arrests take place and everybody who's ever been bad is going to be arrested and like all this vengeance type
Yeah.
energy and like it's bad. But actually what shook me out of it was this one video. I'll share it with you so you can share it with everybody else.
Yeah.
But this one video that showed Trump's handshakes with every other leader versus Putin and the body language and what it is.
It doesn't lie.
It's
I mean, you
compelling.
can't deny it. People who are like so upset about when you draw these parallels, but it's like
Yeah.
you can't. That's psychology.
Yeah.
That's psychology.
Yeah. And this video, honestly, is like equally informative and entertaining. Like,
Okay, that's
yeah.
always
So
nice.
anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that
Okay.
needs to be said as well. Again, it all comes back to going within, which we're being forced to do right now, and finding that self sovereignty. I mean, that's the key. So,
Word. I agree.
yeah.
Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us. We're
Yay.
definitely going to do more of these.
Yes.
You and I think I would love to in future episodes touch on a little bit more of simulation theory, which is what I'm super into right now. Yeah, and quantum physics and all of that.
Yes.
And to continue kind of analyzing. I really appreciate your point of view about this like crisis, and so we're going to keep this going. So my final words would just be, that just a reminder to everybody that whether this all resonates with you at all or not, this is just what I call hashtag another way. And part of this another way movement that I'm kind of working on, that's my book, is to find your own way. And that's really what another way is all about, which is exactly echoed by Nikki here. So Nikki, final words, final thoughts.
Yeah. I would echo those sentiments as well. All the things that I pulled together in my little notes here, purely another way.
Yeah,
possibly. Things that I noticed, but it's just interesting to me how all the pieces seem
Connect.
to fit. But again, let everybody make up their own mind and look deeper. do that research on your own, because then it becomes real for you. And then you can decide, okay, I like that piece, but I don't necessarily like that one. I'll play with this one, but I won't necessarily take it on board necessarily. I'll do that idea of, okay, this may or may not be true. Let's just leave it open for now and see where the evidence lies. So, yeah.
Word. I love it. Okay, thank you so much. Bye, everybody. See you
Bye.
next
Thank
time.
you.